The story kicks off on a bustling street in Philadelphia, where Gerry Lane and his family are preparing to head out, only to find themselves stuck due to the crowded streets. Gerry turns on the radio, catching a news report about an uncontrollable rabies outbreak affecting 12 countries worldwide. Gerry is captivated, and as he listens intently to the news, a motorcycle suddenly speeds by, scraping the reflective mirrors of their vehicle. He attempts to get out of the car to check, but the motorcycle is already gone. Just as he's about to get back into his car, a loud explosion erupts in the distance, suggesting some kind of riot. The previously quiet area is suddenly in chaos, and a police officer urgently advises everyone to get back in their cars immediately. In the midst of this confusion, they are suddenly struck by an oncoming truck. They quickly realize the urgency of getting back into their cars, and they need to act fast, getting back in their cars as swiftly as possible. The United Nations investigator, Gerry Lane, realized the imminent danger and decided to follow the truck to make an escape from this perilous place. However, at that very moment, a fire truck suddenly emerged, and the two vehicles ended up in a car accident. Fortunately, Gerry's family was unharmed, but simultaneously, the zombie virus began to spread rapidly, transforming the entire abandoned city into a fiery inferno of chaos. The zombies mingled with the humans. Their speed was unusually swift, and they were fearless in their attacks on humans. As long as the zombies were in sight, they hardly ever refrained from attacking humans, and they almost never spared them. Once a zombie locked its gaze on a human, survival chances were nearly zero, and the mutation speed was incredibly fast. Once bitten, it took merely 12 seconds to completely transform into a zombie. In a state of panic, Gerry Lane found a car and managed to take his family out of the abandoned city. However, within a few short minutes, the entire city had completely fallen. Gerry drove all the way to the countryside, and only then was he able to escape from the relentless zombie attacks. At that moment, a call came from the United Nations senior management. Thierry informed him that a helicopter would be dispatched to pick up Gerry in an hour. As a skilled retired investigator, the organization needed his expertise desperately. But his daughter suffered from asthma, and they needed to visit the store for medication first, so they headed to the nearest supermarket. The situation is dire, with people frantically grabbing supplies. Due to time constraints, the family split up. Gerry went for medicine, his wife for food. When Gerry exited the drugstore, he saw two criminals robbing his wife. Without hesitation, he shot one and the other fled. When a policeman arrived, old Gerry, strong and sturdy, raised his hands, but the officer ignored him and headed straight for the shelves. The family left the store, only to discover their motorhome was gone. Old Gerry called Blackie, who said the helicopter couldn't reach them for an hour and they'd have to wait until the next day. They went to a nearby apartment to escape the zombies and were taken in by a Mexican family. The next morning, Gerry suggested they join him, but they declined, and Gerry respected their decision. He prepared the equipment needed to fight the zombies and they set off. As soon as they opened the stairwell door, a zombie leaped at them. Once he hears the noise, he shoots him. However, simultaneously, the sound of the gunshot draws more zombies. Their only option is to run towards the rooftop, but the zombies are incredibly fast. He must cover the back, and then one of the zombies leaps onto him. At that crucial moment, a gunshot suddenly kills the zombie. It's the child of a Mexican family. It turns out the family just left. The zombies invaded their home, leaving only the child alive. The wife, who has reached the rooftop, immediately lights the signal. The helicopter spots them. As soon as Gerry makes it to the rooftop, he sprints to the building's edge, counting from 1 to 12. Gerry breathes a sigh of relief because the blood from the recent fight with the walkers splashed into his mouth. If he had been infected, he could have jumped down immediately to protect his family from harm. But he's okay. Then the helicopter arrives, but at the same time the walkers swarm them. Gerry can only block the house's door, allowing the others to go first. Once they're safe, he quickly dashes to the chopper. Once they're safe, Gerry runs as fast as he can to the helicopter. Under the cover of the soldiers, Gerry was rescued, and the helicopter landed on a warship stationed in the sea, which was now considered the safest place to be. The situation was far worse than Gerry had initially imagined, as the virus had spread rapidly across the globe. Even the president was no longer available, but the government remained clueless about the virus. The only clue they had was an email received from South Korea regarding the mutated infected, which they referred to as zombies. However, they had lost contact with them. The only way to halt the catastrophe was to command the highest level of command and control to prevent further outbreaks. To stop this disaster, the Supreme Commander wanted Gerry to lead a doctor to investigate the virus's cause. Once the source of the virus was identified, it should be possible to develop an antiviral serum. Gerry refused immediately because he didn't want to leave his family, but there were no other options. If he wanted to be safe, he had to work for the government, which meant that if he didn't want to work, he would have to leave the boat. So he had no choice but to agree, say goodbye to his family, and board a plane to South Korea. Dr. Gerry was confident in his mission. He believed the virus was like a natural killer that would leave a trail of clues when it struck, and if he could find those clues, everything would be resolved. The boy seems to have something certain, but when the plane lands, zombies attack. The young doctor, never having seen such people, panics, turns to the cabin, falls, and accidentally fires his gun, killing himself. Luckily, American troops arrive and bring them to the camp safely. Though the doctor is gone, the mission continues, but the lab is destroyed. The captain told Gerry the man in bed was the first infected, a medic sent to verify a soldier's death. The medic was bitten and attacked others upon returning. The captain didn't know how the soldier got infected. Then, a detained CIA agent hinted that Israel made the zombie virus before the outbreak. The wall has completely sealed off the entire country, so if you want to know the answer, you must travel to the capital of Israel and locate a man named Django. Therefore, Gerry prepares to embark on a journey to Jerusalem. However, before doing so, he needs to fill the plane's tanks. To minimize noise, they ride their bicycles toward the plane. But on the way, Gerry's cell phone suddenly rings, instantly waking up the nearby zombies. The soldiers in the area immediately open fire to cover the captain, who is responsible for refueling the plane. Gerry and the others manage to arrive safely, yet the zombies are able to take over. The captain successfully refueled the plane, and Gerry and his companions reached the cabin safely, but it came at the cost of the local troops. After a night of flying, the plane landed safely in Jerusalem. Gerry instructed the pilot to remain there and wait until nightfall, promising to return by then. He found Django, who was working as a UN investigator, guided by the local troops. Django informed Gerry that the reason Israel had constructed the wall in advance was due to intercepting a telegram between Indian generals. The message mentioned that the Indians were in combat with the zombies. However, Gerry was puzzled about how a country could construct a wall based on an unverified message and questioned if they had nothing better to do than to sustain themselves. When I was treating the wound of the girl soldier, Gerry suddenly realized something important. Israel had established a unique rule known as the 10th man. This rule stated that if 9 people reviewed the same information and reached the same conclusion, it was then the responsibility of the 10th man to challenge that conclusion and prove the other 9 wrong. Django was this 10th man. It might sound absurd at first, but this is precisely the reason why, at present, Israel is considered the only country in the entire world that is truly safe. They've not only bolstered their defenses, but are also welcoming refugees from other nations. In this post-apocalyptic world, survivors are few and far between. However, just at that moment, the tide of zombies outside the wall suddenly became restless. It turned out that the refugees inside the wall were celebrating their survival with joyful singing. The noise from the microphones was so loud that it attracted tens of thousands of zombies to gather at that spot. They began building a ladder of naked bodies at such a rapid that the zombies soon breached the wall and attacked the survivors. Gerry, witnessing this, realized that the only way for them to survive was to fight back. But the situation was dire. They needed to find a way to use the virus to their advantage. Gerry met with the team of scientists and military personnel, working quickly to develop a strategy. They hypothesized that the virus could be used to stop the zombies from attacking humans, but it would require a risky procedure. They needed to find a way to infect themselves without turning into zombies. The only way this could work was if the infection didn't kill them immediately. The plan was risky, but it was their only hope. Gerry was reluctant, but he knew he had no choice. He volunteered for the procedure, understanding that this was their best shot at survival. As they prepared for the procedure, Gerry thought about his family. He hadn't seen them in what felt like an eternity. But he was determined to finish this mission, not only for the world, but for them. He hoped this risky gamble would turn the tide in their favor. The procedure was intense. They injected themselves with a modified version of the virus, and it worked, at least for now. Gerry and the others were temporarily immune, able to move among the zombies without being attacked. But it was only a matter of time before the virus would start to take its toll on their bodies. They had the cure and they were ready to share it with the world. Back on the ship, Gerry reunited with his family, who had been waiting anxiously for his return. It was a bittersweet moment. The world they once knew was gone, but they had survived. The cure could save humanity, but there was still much work to be done.